Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad to be back with you. This is our year to shine, and we're going to be continuing our discussion of Francine Jay's The Joy of Less. Now, if you didn't know that I was moving, you might not even be able to tell because my background probably looks pretty similar. I was trying for you to be able to see the view because I got my bird feeders up and everything because I'm now on a ground level. I have a nice view out to some woods and stuff. So I was thinking about the book during the move because remember in a recent video when Francine suggested that when we're redoing a room or we're going to be paring down or whatever, that we should take everything out of the room and then put it back in. And I said to you guys, my place is so small, I'll never be able to do that. Well, I just made a move. I moved to the exact same unit that I had, like even facing the same direction and everything. So it was a pretty interesting experience. I was thinking about, like, I was like, this is exactly what I'm doing right now. So I basically had like a whole fresh place. It was empty. I was able to get things prepared prior to the furniture coming in. And I'm really happy with some of the changes I made, and I absolutely did pare down a little bit. But I mean, everything looks probably pretty similar behind me from you guys watching. So tonight's section of the book is about the home office. And I have to say, maybe because I do have a pretty, my home office is a good part of my living space, and because I do have a home office, I really liked it. But I think that she made some great points. I got probably the most out of it from any section that we've read so far. So I'm going to share some things that she said. And I think even if you don't necessarily have like a setup, I have 2 desks. I have the hutch with stuff in it. And you know, before I took you last year on I had a huge room that was my home office. But even if you don't have a really big dedicated space, hopefully you have something. And maybe it's even just having all of your household stuff that you're doing in something that you can carry and then you can bring it to a specific table. Or maybe you have a desk in like part of the living room or something. And by the way, there's a kitty here, and she's actually adjusted so well to this new place. Probably because the flooring is different here, and I have area rugs, so that's the main thing. But I did set it up basically the same way, so it wasn't as big of a shock, I think, to her. She did really well on this move. Last time she didn't come out for 4 days, but this time she was out the next morning, so it was totally fine. All right, back to the book. So I also think that she is right when she says the home office can become a major place of clutter. Because isn't it, like, say you do have a desk, isn't it the place that you just like throw mail? You might have like big piles of paperwork or books, and so it is a place that needs to be decluttered. And I also appreciate, remember we have that word streamline and all the letters stand for something different. The M at the end is for maintain. And as I was looking through, I was thinking, I don't maintain things, you know, like she had an example of something that she was going through a drawer and she found labels for a VHS tape. You know, it's like things that were just totally obsolete that she still had. And so occasionally I have come across things like that. And it's because I'm not on a schedule of like regularly going through and like maybe every once a year kind of like sorting through stuff. And maybe you realize that that's the time that you notice that you have 10,000 paper clips or 50 pens, and remember she said even 30 would last us for like a decade or more. So imagine that you're sitting at your desk, she says, hard at work on an important project. You're making good progress when you suddenly find the need to find a specific document, and you're like, oh crap, because you don't know where anything is. So this could be at your own workplace too, if you have a desk at your office. So she's talking a little bit about how to not let it become that way. So remember, surfaces are empty, and then also everything has a place, right? And you always put things away. I have to tell you, this is not Francine's process, but do you see this little basket back here? I either read or listened to some productivity class at one point, and so this is what I consider to be my inbox. So it's where things go when I'm done working on my desk, or if I have mail or something like that, and I know that I'm going to get to it, but it's not urgent, then it goes in that basket. And then I can pull the basket. I can even like bring it to the living room area, and I can kind of sort through it, get rid of junk mail, things like that. So you might like something like that, so that it's, I mean, if you're looking for something that recently came in, then it's going to be less to go through if it's just in a little basket like that. But it also keeps your surfaces less cluttered, and you know, it also allows you to have a place for things. Like maybe right now you don't have a place for mail, and it's just like on the kitchen counter, and then there's files elsewhere and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm pretty organized, but that's like, you know, that's like just a little box that I throw things in. Everybody's messaging me. That's now the third person that's messaged me since I started this video. And then the other thing I have, which you can't see in this video, but you've probably seen in other videos when I'm facing the opposite direction, is I have a fabric box. And that's where all of my receipts and bills that I've paid and any sort of records, things that have come in, everything goes in that box. And I remember years ago, I used to be so organized that I had files in my file drawer, and it had like the months, and then I stapled everything, and I was so organized. But the time that I spent doing that was kind of wasted time, or I was wasting energy and stuff on that when I could use the time for other things. Remember I told you how Mark Cuban doesn't like to make his bed because he wants to be doing other things? I have learned over the years, and I've done this now for the past 6 at least years, maybe 7, that if I just have this sort of like storage box, I have one, you know, I fill it up for the year, and then I move it to like a tote where if I, you know, because I have to keep things for my business. So if I ever need anything from that particular year, or God forbid I get audited or something like that, then I have everything. It's not organized, but I can organize it if I had to. Like if I got audited, then I would just have to take the time at that point to go through and just have things more organized. But I know that everything's in there. So I stopped putting things in special folders and stapling stuff, and I've gotten rid of the time that it used to take me to just organize all that stuff. So inbox, sort of outbox, I guess, is sort of like a holding box. And so those are just some processes that I have. And I'm thinking back now to, I mentioned Abraham Hicks a lot, and I remember that Esther said something about how she has storage units where she has files and things, and she's always afraid that she's going to forget where she put things. So she started using her, probably her phone, but she had some sort of recording device where she would label the boxes like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or whatever. And then she would say, my extra iPod is in box G, you know. So she had this whole, like, she didn't even take the time to write it. She just made a huge voice memo. I'm sure she's so rich she probably had somebody listen back to it if she ever needed to find something. But that sort of gave her peace of mind also. And Francine talked to us about having deep storage. One thing that she says in this section that I like also is that there is so much at our disposal for, you know, immediately tomorrow getting something from Amazon or Staples or Target or something like that. So you can keep the minimum that you need to get through maybe a week. Maybe you need a week lead time to get something. But you don't have to keep a huge amount of office supplies right in your inner realm. Remember, she talked about those inner and outer realms. So she said you can consider those stores to be like your storage, because they're holding those things until you need them, and then you can get them, you know. hopefully, unless we have some kind of a shortage on something, which isn't out of the question at this point. But I liked that comment. So she's talking to us about decluttering, like I said, and she says, you know, again, you're going to trash, treasure, transfer also, like we do in every room. So you're going to get rid of stuff that's torn, you know, like old file folders, sticky notes that don't stick anymore, used envelopes, empty ink cartridges, and things like that. So she has us sort of warming up with things like that. And this is when you might find those things, because she mentions right here, you may find things that are completely obsolete at this point, like the VHS tape stickers or something like that. So those things are trash, or maybe you can find somebody to transfer those. So she also talks about getting rid of old paperwork too, because, all right, so I have this box that is going to get labeled with the year. But then, of course, you'd have to talk to your accountant or whoever helps you if you have an advisor in that way. How long do you have to keep certain records? And then this would be another maintain thing. When you get to that point where maybe it's 7 years or 10 or however many years you need to keep something, then you get rid of it. And maybe you probably shred it or do something secure to get rid of it if it has anything sensitive on it. So she shares too that when she finally recycled a lot of things, she just felt so much lighter. Remember, we're talking about the joy of less. So I can understand that. I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I was moving, and I just ripped up old journals, and I had probably like 10 bags of recycled paper, and it was like stuff I'd been lugging around. And I was also thinking about, when I was reading this chapter, I have a friend, I don't know, she could be watching, but this was maybe 15 years after we graduated college, and a bunch of us from college had all gotten together. And it came out, her husband spilled the beans, that somewhere in their basement she had totes and totes of her college notebooks and textbooks. And for some reason, she thought that they were going to have value of some kind. Like, can you imagine? Why would you, unless you were going to try to sell your notes or something? But nowadays it's so different, because kids probably take notes on their laptops, and I don't even think they have to buy textbooks anymore. I think they rent them and stuff. So that's a point where it's like, when these things are taking up space, think about all the room. And they did finally get rid of them, because every time I saw them, I'd be like, did she get rid of those yet? And so I think she finally felt the pressure and got rid of them. But sometimes you have to really think about, like, why are you holding on to this? Like, I can't imagine that those really had sentimental value. I think sometimes when you pay so much for something, because remember how much we used to pay for textbooks in college, and then you'd return, like you try to get them to buy them back, and you get like half of what it was, even if it was only 2 days later after you bought it. So I can understand that. It might have been something to do with that. I think for some reason she was feeling like she was gonna need it. And now her daughter might be going to the college that we went to, and I asked her recently, I was like, do you have any of those things left? Because you could like pass on this notebook and say, this was my first notebook, and you can pass it on for generations. Anyway, I was thinking of that as I was reading it, because she is talking about really getting down to, like, what is a real treasure, and why are you holding on to some of these things? So yeah, does the paperwork do its job, or is it just hanging around looking pretty? Again, if you like to have like little extra things that do make things pretty, maybe that's your style. So you have to kind of decide. There's little need to stock up. Like I said, you can have that deep storage in other places, like at Staples, and you get it when you need it. And again, she's talking a lot about paperwork. So, okay, so then she says, everything in its place. It's the single best way to keep your desk tidy. So instead of letting papers, paperclip, and rubber bands run wild in your workplace, corral them. So remember, we had modules, and we talked about that with the clothing, where we put the spring clothing together or put them together by color and things like that. So again, like as you're sitting at your desk, maybe there's a certain drawer, and it's like the one that's easily accessible. So the things that go in there, that module might be things that you want to have within reach that you use a lot. Or like you can see, like you probably can't see what it is, but I have envelopes together, and then I have stamps right nearby. If you're using staples, then your stapler is probably with it. So it makes sense in this realm to have certain sort of modules, things that are alike. Your inner circle would consist of those regularly used supplies. So that would be like that drawer that you could reach to. Your outer circle belongs to paperwork and files with which you've recently dealt and you may need to reference again. So that would be like my outer circle would be that box that I put everything in. And then more like deep storage, that would be like maybe your diploma, she says, deeds, tax returns. I mean, hopefully you have a safety deposit box, or hopefully whatever your deep storage is, it's not going to be something that would burn down or anything, because although tax returns, you can have them electronically now. But she does say something about having a firebox, which we talked about last year. And when we were talking about Sarah Ban Breathnach's book, Simple Abundance, we did talk about in the caution closet having copies, maybe even on a disk drive, I should say a flash drive, not a disk drive. I did actually get rid of some old A drive floppy disks when I was cleaning out. It's funny that I said that. But when we were talking about the caution closet, that you're going to have important things in there, like if you need to grab your passport and stuff like that, it's right there. But you might want to have that in some kind of a fire-resistant material. Give each category of the office a special container, even if it's just a Ziploc bag. And I will tell you too, I should have thought about how I was going to show you these things. But you can save things. Oh, and you know what? I can't even pull it out because I use like those sticky things. But you can save things like the things that I have stuff organized in this drawer are past Christmas card boxes, like the bottom of them. So there's a lot of things actually, like these things, like right here that I have whiteout in. This is something that, I don't know, it was probably like pineapples or something that I got at the store at one point. So you don't have to go out and spend a lot to keep things organized. And she mentioned Ziploc baggies, but I try to be creative, and there's so much you can get at the dollar store. And I'm sorry for all the noise. There's a lot of noise here tonight. There's a plane taking off, I think. Okay. She does say if you lack a specific workspace, your whole office might be a module. Like if it is that little desk in the living room, then it could be that it's a very small space. Or you could have, like I said, a basket or a bag with pockets and things like that, and that's like your movable office that you can bring with you. And then here's this whole maintain section that I talked about. It's supremely important to keep all surfaces clear. Again, treat your desk as flex space and clean it off when you wrap up each day's work, as if someone else might come in and use it tomorrow. Yeah. So she does kind of talk about like pretend that you're almost like a mobile worker, where you go into a desk that's not even your own, and then at the end of the day you pack it up and it looks like somebody else could use it the next day. And amazing and distressing things happen in home office spaces. Everything that provides the least bit of horizontal space starts collecting stuff. Yeah, that's true. Like your surfaces could collect those books and paperwork and everything. Here we go again. Sounds like I live on the runway. Please resist the urge to paper your surroundings, because it's chaotic, it's unorganized, and it makes almost impossible to find stuff. Yeah, like if you tried to have certain piles on your desk, that would be kind of a nightmare. How many planes have taken off during this video? I don't know. Clear surfaces are not only pleasing to the eye, they are beneficial to the mind. You'll be able to think more clearly and work more productively without all of the visual distraction. That's true. Like when my desk is messy, it messes with me. I like to have a cleaner workspace. Yes, you do too, because you like to come up. Her new thing now is like sleeping on the desk. I don't know why she's doing that. She hasn't really been doing that before. Yeah, you like to be up high in this new place, I think, so you can look at everything. Right, and the floor. Remember, that's the largest surface in your place. That should not be a filing system either. You don't want to start packing things up, like stacking things up, I should say, on there. We can declutter all we want, but one of the keys to a minimalist office is controlling the inflow. That's true as well. And she says things like get rid of junk mail before it even gets into like an inbox like I have. Now you're all frisky, huh? You showing off? Yeah, she makes a good point too, and I did this years ago. I probably should do it again because I think it only has a certain time period. There are ways that you can get less junk mail, and you can also send a letter to the credit bureaus that you don't want your credit to be pulled and to get credit card offers and things like that. It's especially important when you live somewhere, like I live in an apartment community, so I don't want those things getting out there. Like if somebody else got their hands on it and then tries to sign up for a credit card under my name. So you can also make sure that you don't get signed up for things at stores either. Just don't give your address. Although sometimes you are buying stuff online now, and that's like the perfect way for them to get your information. But when you get something, you can also write to them and say that you're not interested. Like sometimes, especially because I have a business still, I will get these catalogs for, things like pens that would have my business name on it and stuff like that. And so I just write them and say, like, I don't have a need for this, so please don't send me the catalogs. And once you sign up for one catalog, then you will find that you will all of a sudden get it like 10 times that many. But maybe you like catalogs, maybe you like looking through them, and then you might pass them on at the library or use them for some kind of, shopping for Christmas or things. So it's a good idea to think about that, to get your name off of mailing lists whenever possible. Our offices are dynamic spaces. There's stuff coming in, stuff going out, and stuff moving around on a daily basis. That's true. And a kitty's moving around on a daily basis in my office. Therefore, we can't simply do a large-scale declutter and call it a day. That's true. It is a different sort of area than another one in the house. Keeping this area streamlined requires constant vigilance. To that end, be a good gatekeeper. Keep a recycling bin by the front door and stop catalogs, circulars, takeout menus, and other junk mail from even entering the house. That's a good point. I think Cheryl Richardson also said that to us in one of her books. For the mail that makes it into your office, open each piece and act on it immediately. So that's different than what I do. I sort of put it in the bin and then I do it all together. Because honestly, I feel like my day would be too disjointed if I just opened it and acted on it immediately. I'd rather just do it all together and act on it all immediately. Shred credit cards, solicitations, balance transfer checks, and other non-essential paper with personal information. Scan or file any documents you need to keep. Sort bills that require payments, letters that require action, or information that requires review in the appropriate inbox or slot on your desk. In an ideal system, each piece of paper would be handled just once. So I see what she's saying. Instead of me bringing the mail over, putting it in this basket, then I would be eliminating the second time that I'm touching it if I did get rid of it right away. But I like my system, so I'm not changing that, Francine, sorry. When you finish your work for the day, return all supplies to their designated places and files to their appropriate folders. If it's more efficient to keep them together, set up a working module for that particular project, preferably in some kind of container rather than spread out across your desk. So yeah, see how I have like one of these things that keeps files. So usually whatever I'm working on or things that I have to be able to reach quickly. This must be the takeoff hour. Then I have those right there within my reach. And then I have in my storage unit, I have other files that I don't have to get to on a regular basis. So you can pick up right where you left off if you have a project folder like that. You can just grab that folder instead of having all the papers all over your desk. Return child's homework or spouse's novel and the dog's chew toys to its respective owner before it has the chance to settle in. And do you have enough to worry about with your own space? Everyday maintenance will keep your desk clear and your stuff under control. However, you'll still need to purge your files periodically. Exactly. Try as you might to follow the one in, one out rule. Chances are you'll still end up with a little more in than out. I agree with that about the office. Scan your file folders on a monthly or quarterly basis. I'm lucky if I would do that on a year. And then toss, and this is shred or recycle what's no longer relevant. Furthermore, do a full-scale purge on an annual basis and clear out the old to make way for the new. I like to schedule this for early January and have a fresh start for the new year. I remember in Simple Abundance, I feel like it was more like in the spring that Sarah, the author, had us going through our papers and doing that. So, I mean, there's so much that happens at the beginning of the year, and it's the holiday season right at the end of the year. So, I don't know. You can find a time. I like that annual basis because I can't see myself having enough time on a monthly or a quarterly basis to really start scanning documents and stuff. I suppose I could do that. And one thing I have been doing, this isn't necessarily related to the office, but I used to keep a lot of boxes for things that I had because I was always thinking like, oh, I might need the serial number or something like that for the warranty or things like that. And so what I started doing is taking pictures of those things and then get rid of the box, or I just cut that off of the box and put that into a drawer in storage. So it's kind of like minimizing your paperwork when you do that, in the sense of having boxes for things that you don't need. Or manuals, you probably save those things too when you buy something, and then if you have a yard sale, you can always pass the manual on to somebody else, or if you sell it online or something. But otherwise, you probably need to go through those things on a regular basis because you might have a manual to something that you don't even own anymore, like a VCR or something like that. So anyway, that was our discussion about the home office. The next one is the kitchen and the dining room. We're getting through. I think we only have 2 more areas, and then we have just a wrap-up section. So that'll be perfect timing for the end of the month. And then we will start the Wayne Dyer book, so don't forget to be looking for that. You can look back at my mid to late April, video, because I did do this book over 2 months. So look back in April for that book that's coming up next. Annabelle says, have a great day. Glad to be back with you guys. Please leave me a comment, say hello. I've missed you guys, and hopefully that will be the last really long hiatus between my videos. So thanks as always for being here. Lots of love to you all, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.